The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. San Francisco Giants baseball, past, present, and future. I'm Ralph Tycho. The host, Michael Duca, is on assignment, and we have a pinch hitter. He's been here 2 or 3 different times. Terrific guest, former Batboy of the Giants, Patrick Quinlan. How are you, Patrick?
I am just blessed again to be with Mr. Ralph. Thank you so much. I'm awesome. Baseball time.
Oh, well, this is always fun for us because we relive some old times, but you're nice enough because you keep up so well to give us your own touch on what's going on with the current Giants. And since this show was last aired, the Giants are slowly completing the puzzle. Austin Jackson was signed as a center fielder. You give me your impression what that means to the Giants.
Oh, on the latest signing?
Yes.
That was a great acquisition. I mean, Austin Jackson, pro. He's been with 5 or 6 teams. He's a superior defender. And, lifetime 271 plus. I mean, that's a great signing for them. And good terms. I mean, 2 years, you got to get a pro. And, spacious confines of AT&T. So I loved it. I think we got him.
And look at how you've improved the range out there. Hunter Pence moves to left. McCutcheon in right is basically a center fielder. He's not far removed from being an everyday center fielder with the Pirates. And in that spacious ballpark, you need two really fast outfielders in center and right. And they've accomplished that. What's missing in the puzzle? They didn't have to give up Panic, so their infield is intact. I'd say pitching.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. You think? I mean,
can you get around it? And my question is, if Bumgarner comes back to form, it isn't all that bad. You got Cueto, Samaja, or however you pronounce his name.
Yeah, you got it.
How many teams have 3 really quality starters? And I think Cueto is, with the stuff he has and his composure out there, I think he could be due for a breakout year that could surprise an awful lot of people. That's just my guess. But the key is getting Bumgarner back at the top of the rotation. Have you heard anything about his rehab and how that's going?
Good. He's healthy. He's 100%. He can't wait. He can't wait. He's so solid and strong. It's like you just watch. I think he's gonna have a Cy Young type of season.
Okay.
Watch.
I hope so. I certainly hope so. Because they'll fill in with the second or the third, or the 4th and 5th starters. Like I say, there are very few teams that can go right down the line and throw a winner out there every day, especially in this day of home runs and relief pitching being so important. I think they're going to get by. I think they're okay. Patrick, while I have you, I want to ask you a philosophical question about the Giants and their attitude towards Posey's long-term status. Do you think they're going to find a way of moving him off out of catcher and onto first base sometime in the very near future, like next year or the year after?
You called it. That's what I'm looking at. 2020. 21. Well, because he's going into 30. I mean, he's played so many all the World Series, all the postseasons, and so many games behind there. Yeah, absolutely. So, then that'll be, hopefully Belt will stay strong enough to where he'll become a tradable player. But yeah, absolutely, Ralph, because he's too valuable. You know what I mean? He's just too valuable to us.
Yeah, what brought that to mind, though, was that there's a kid named Suaz from Sacramento who was a backup a couple of years ago, tight prospect. He was just traded to Milwaukee.
Andrew Susac?
Susac, right. Andrew Susac, whose parents owned an insurance agency in Sacramento 50 years ago when I lived there, if you could believe that. I can remember buying insurance from those people a long time ago. So, and when he came up, that was kind of trippy because I realized how many players come out of the Sacramento area. It's
right.
Anyway, I lost my train of thought, but the Giants have not developed a strong enough second catcher. There was another guy before Susac who they were high on for a year or two. A Spanish kid, and I can't think of his name either.
Well, other than Hector Sanchez, who they re-signed, and I don't know how serious they were about him, but he was always a two guy.
Right, right. They haven't developed anybody into another one guy. I mean, Posey's got big shoes to fill, and they haven't come up with someone solid enough to move him over. Quite frankly, Belt has been a mediocre ball player. I mean, just with an incredible amount of potential, and who streaks occasionally and looks like DiMaggio, but goes into these horrendous slumps. So I think we're both on the same page. In a year or two, Gucci should be at first base. Which brings to mind, too, that moving a guy to a new position is no small trick. First base is not as simple as it looks. Guys like Mantle have come in at the end of their career. Even DiMaggio, Monty Irvin, they wanted to make a first baseman out of. I'm just thinking of guys in the past, and it's just not that easy. Some guys have a tough time with the footwork and what have you. So what I would suggest is they break him in and let him get some backup time, or when they want to rest Belt or bring it, whatever, and plan for it so they don't just throw him in as a first baseman one winter and say, knock yourself out in spring, that kind of thing.
Right, exactly. But yeah, no, they need to really get a number two. I mean, it's great to have Hundley sign, but he's not getting younger. But we need a young Hundley.
Right.
With
Hundley's a pretty good kid. Hundley's a pretty good number two guy. But again, given his age, you're looking at the future, and that's the way it always is. Guys coming up, timing it just right. Do you think they spent too much time keeping Pence? Do you think if they were going to get McCutchen, they might have found a way out of Pence's situation and leave it to young guys like Parker, or does this make them a little old at this point in the outfield?
Well, no, not really. I mean, Pence, he's just running his contract. He signed the 5-year. He got what he wanted because he really demanded it. And,
right.
When you're part of 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, he's a top caliber corner guy. So they had that. They had to feel that. So they got what they wanted out of him. It's all good.
Okay.
It's all positive. It's all
Yeah.
good.
Oh, they got the championships. Everything else is icing on the cake. I didn't have a good feeling. Pence opened the business. It was all over the internet and all over television.
Isn't that
He opened
crazy?
some business in Houston, a bar that provides games and what have you. I thought that was a very interesting concept, and I wish he would have brought that out to California.
Well, would have worked
seems
here.
a little progressive for Texas.
Correct.
So does indoor plumbing, when you come to think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I'm going to ask you, when you think back about on your Batboy days, were there some days when, wow, things just weren't going good? We've talked in the past about how cool it was to hobnob with these guys and what have you, but a job is a job, and jobs have ups and downs, people you work with, this, that, and the other thing. Was there a bad period of time being, if one can imagine a childhood fantasy of being a bat boy for a big league team, being a bad time? But I think you'll agree with me. It's a job, and it doesn't always go good. Can you relate to some of the times when you struggled with it?
Personally, no, because it was such a, I didn't know anybody. I went out there in the winter of '75, and I told my mother having to be home from work, and I played a hooky day with her, and we were just having a little breakfast and coffee, and I just said, "Hey, Mom, can you give me a ride out to the ballpark anyway?" So I got the job, and Eddie Logan gave me this dream job and all that stuff. But you know what? You love the players so much. Throughout the 4 years that I was there, we had losing seasons. So, you roll with the players, because I felt so bad for them, because we had the 70s, Ralph, was a brutal decade. Other than 70, 71, 78, there were those patches, and it was just rough. And you're there collectively with the guys, because they're not enjoying not winning, and you take it such to heart, because this is your family, so you feel as bad as they do, but they're still grinding it, because you have a lost season. Next thing you know, it's August, you just playing it out, and the type of roster you have, and it was so different then with how it is now, and all the monies, and the other than the big blockbuster in '78 when we got Vita Blue for 7 players, that they're playing baseball for a living. Yes, they would love to win, but they're still the luckiest men on the planet, because they're getting paid to play the greatest game on the planet. So you just stay in that, especially in that culture, and so many games. 162 games in 184 days, or those types of numbers. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. So many games in a short amount of time that they're grinding it out with the positivity every day. It's a new game. It's a new day. Even when you don't even see first or second place in 3 of those 4 years, you just stay positive every day. Now you're trying to continue to win games. You're still trying to produce as an individual, because you're contracted, your contract here, you want to sign on. So there was never bad days, and those players in that time, they were so happy. You have a rule, being in the role I had, where after the game and they lose, you just go in there and pick up jocks and sanitaries and put uniforms in hampers and clean and shine spikes and trainer's room. You got your list of duties. You call it a day. You keep your mouth shut. You just go with the flow, because they're not happy about losing. None of those guys are ever happy about losing. So no, having bad days. You know what? I just felt bad when they lost. So I felt as bad as they did. But you go home and you get a good night's sleep. You come back and you go after it again. And if you
now,
have
this was all after high school for you, am I correct?
Well, no, 2 years in high school and 2 years in junior college.
Okay. Now, high school
so
especially,
I was one of those
how did you get to juggle classes and what have you? Junior college, you can kind of come and go as you please. But did you have some sort of an agreement with the powers that be in high school that gave you permission for this, that, and the other thing?
Yep. It was almost like a scholarship,
Okay.
And, and it just was.
So your grades had to be up there in the first place, or they wouldn't have done that for you.
Yeah, my mom was so great, and she high IQ, and she was really intelligent, and she knew that I was living this dream. I mean, some little scrapper kid. I mean, some little Irish kid. It was overwhelming because in that type of role, like nothing else, Ralph, you don't go to minor leagues. I mean, just like that, I'm in a big league clubhouse at 17,
right.
Junior in high school. I'm not with the Crushers or an independent team or an A team or a double A team or triple A team. I mean, right away, you're with the big leaguers. Right away, you got to learn that culture with grown men at the highest level.
Now, imagine what a bonus baby goes through as a player signing at a high school or college, and all of a sudden you have to come up and spend. I don't know if they even have that deal anymore. In the old days, you'd sign a big enough contract, they'd have to keep you on a major league roster. Sandy Koufax went through that, and a number of players did who were thrown. They weren't getting experience, playing experience, and sitting around watching wasn't making up for it. So I don't think they have that rule anymore. But
correct. I mean, guys can go from college to the pros, but it just hasn't happened. From the Bob Horner to Dave Winfield years, where, well, yeah, I mean, it's just you got to be so good. It's so hard. I mean, you get these bonus babies, and they go, Buster and a bunch of these guys went through a year or two, and then they realize, okay, he can handle high A and some double A. They're in the big leagues to stay. They're just gifted. But no, Ralph, you got it. Those days are. It's. I don't even know. I got to do a little research on that. I can't even remember, other than Winfield in the mid 75, Horner late 77, 78.
Not playing in the minor. Well, those David Clyde came up
from high school. Mike
right
Morgan
away
from
at
high
Luke
school.
Krause,
Tim
I think.
Conroy, high school. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, we've talked about Willie Mack. We've talked about Willie Mays. We haven't really talked about Vida Blue. And what was he like for being a bat boy? He didn't try to big league you or anything, I'm assuming?
Never.
Good.
Never. He was just such a
positive. I want my image ruined of the man as a fun-loving, really people person. You found him that way, I'm sure.
1,000,000%. I mean, okay, his energy levels. Vida. See, Vida is borderline Hall of Famer, so 200-plus wins. And when you look at his numbers, I mean, there's a lot that he accomplished. And Vida, he never had arm injuries, but he was just a positive force. It's what his nature was. And man, what a joy, because it took him I was in spring training in 78 when we got him. It took him about 10 days or so to report, because, he was with those great swinging ace teams, 5 straight divisions.
Oh, yeah.
3 state World Series.
That had to be a shock. I mean, he was literally. How many guys was he traded? 8 guys?
7 guys. John
Yeah.
Henry Johnson and Alan Worth and Gary Alexander, Gary Thomason, Mario Guerrero was in there. Dave Haverlow was in there. Phil Huffman.
The tuna.
Haverlow. Good knowledge.
Right.
So,
and Thomason in the early 70s was when the Giants were an outfield supply for the National League. I mean, so many guys coming up. Thomason came up when Gary Matthews came up, and they were
Maddox.
who else? Gabriel Sin, I think, was one of those guys. They had a bunch of guys competing for big league jobs, and Thomason had some numbers. He helped them a little bit. The Sarge was terrific. Gary and Maddox was another one. Now those Giants.
You know, when him and Bobby Bonds told me this one time when I was talking to him about that outfield, Matthews, Maddox, and Bonds for a minute, and he said, Ralph, he goes, Patty, he's smoking a cigarette and throws it down. He goes, nobody will be faster than us because they all ran 100 under 10. Matthews, Maddox, and Bonds, you're not going to get a ball through there. And it was a shame because Horace ran out of money, and he was a huge drinker and all that stuff. He just lost his mind, and they weren't organized. And Chub Feeney ran the Giants for 3 years because Horace didn't have any money, and the league stepped in. And it was really a brutal decade because we lost all those guys. Matthews went to Atlanta with Ted Turner as a free agent. Maddox got traded for Montiez. Bobby left for Mercer because Bobby had an argument with Horace about a contract extension, and Horace got all indignant with Bobby Bonds, arguably the greatest player of his years, one of them, and it was just tragic. Inspire.
That started Bonds on a downhill run, and
correct.
Not only that, it brought Mercer in, who was a Yankee at heart and was broken-hearted. He was supposed to replace the Mick. He didn't want to be here any more than you can imagine, and yet he had a pretty good attitude.
Very.
But it was
a pro
just a bad fit. It was a bad fit, and right about that time, because Horace was struggling, so the farm system stopped producing altogether. And
100%, sir.
Whatever they traded off, those were the last outfielders to be traded. But way before that, guys like Willie Kirkland, Luz went in trades. Wagner, Leon Wagner, Daddy Wags. Giants always had an abundance of outfielders, and when that stopped, when Horace's funds ran out, and that stopped, the organization reeled for a long time.
Oh, it was a brutal. We caught a lot of great production because McCovey talked Mad Dog into moving to second because they tried Evans in left, and Daryl's not a left fielder, so they brought Evans in. Then they had Evans, LeMaster, Madlock, McCovey, Whitfield, Hernan, Clark, and then Mark Hill and Sadek and Tamargo behind the dish with the solid starting pitch in 78. So that was awesome. The Sheik. And one great story about that, sir, is McCovey gave him that nickname because in that part of the world, Middle East, all the Sheik, the most common last names of the Sheiks is Sadek.
Oh,
so,
really?
Correct. So Matt goes, hey, Sheik. And
now, that's interesting that McCovey, with a Southern background and not much experience in international affairs, would have that knowledge.
Exactly. And it's interesting about a lot of these guys when you get to really know them is they're all into different stuff. All of them read differently. All of them, you just never know. You can't question their IQs. You can't go to Keith Hernandez and Seaver and all these other guys and think they're not high IQ guys when Keith Hernandez was a Civil War expert and he was a crossword expert and he knew every word in the English language, and Seaver and all these other guys were so well read. John Curtis was a giant left-handed pitcher with the Cardinals and the Red Sox as well, and John Curtis, he's a writer and he was well read. I mean, all these guys have so many interests that you start talking to them and you just go, you're just learning. You're just learning from them. It was pretty amazing.
And they have time, and they go to different cities, and they're exposed to museums and the cultures of the cities and different people, and they meet people on their way up.
Exactly.
Small towns and minor leagues, and they get to see different cultures. No matter, it's just a wonderful, wonderful community. Baseball itself.
Well, when those guys are in it for a long time, they're the blessed ones. When you look at Gwen and all these MLB present pieces they do on all these Hall of Famers and all the guys that have played in the big leagues for 5 or more years, or the 10 plus, and the minor league cities plus their major league career. I mean, what a charm, what a great life if you.
Hey, how about the guys who are just cup of coffee guys? They've got a story to tell. Guys who make it through the minors, playing with the guys who we read about in the headlines and this, that, and the other thing, and getting to know those guys before they become really great. So they rode the buses with the superstars long before they were superstars, and having interviewed hundreds of people over these last years, but in particular many career minor leaguers and career minor league coaches, and guys who maybe came up for a week, maybe just a day, or maybe didn't come up and got everything they could out of themselves to get as far as they could. It's the journey, not the destination, that's most important. And Patrick, I just got to tell you what any good Irishman knows. It's the oasis that's more important than both of those two things.
Right. Right.
Never lose sight of that, young man.
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
In memory of those who never lost sight of it, for no other reason. Hey, anything about this upcoming season that really excites you?
Well, I've always,
as far as the Giants' chances are concerned.
Well, I'm excited because they'll compete for a crown. Because see, what a lot of people, everything is so current. Like I'll tell my friends, I said, relax when they start like last year. I go, wait a second. So you're telling me you're true black and orange? Oh yeah, dude. I go, quit popping off on Facebook and popping off when we get together. We got 3 World Series in 5 years recently. Well, I swear to God, after all the defeats I've had in my life with them, I go, that's okay. At least the Niners 5 and the Warriors couple, 3, okay.
Right.
Well, one of that.
But I don't want you to get complacent. That kind of talk only goes so far.
No, totally. So 98 was Murphy's Law, from Melanson to Will Smith to Madison's little childhood stunt. That was just a steamroll. That was just like, what's going to happen next? And it's what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? Now, next thing you know, it's August something. You're 20-plus games. It was brutal. Well, that was temporary because everybody was so banged up. Now, going into this year, everybody's healthy. We got 4 out of 5 in the infield Gold Gloves. Longoria's 30-plus. McCutcheon's 31. McCutcheon I've loved because he always showed me a little bit of say hey. I like it. I mean, what's not to like? We got starters. Not like we don't have starters. It's not like we don't have bullpens. So they'll compete. They'll compete like any other team in the division. So I'm excited about that. I mean, the Dodgers, you tip their hats because they got so many young bombers. Bellinger and Chris Taylor and Sager. I mean, they're we'll see where a year later where their starters go.
Okay.
Kershaw another year older. With how he succeeded with those mechanics and he balks every time. And the hills and stuff like that. So, but as long as you start out healthy, Ralph, now you got a roster that is MLB ready. You got a starting nine MLB ready. So I'm fired up.
All right.
Absolutely.
Let's make it a good year, and I hope you'll come back more often this year than you did last year.
Oh, Ralph, thank you so much, and I appreciate your time and your interest, and I'm blessed. Thank you so much.
I'm blessed to have you, Patrick. Patrick Quinlan, former Batboy, Renaissance man, baseball coach. What else do you do, Patrick? I mean, you just got it going.
Yeah, just restaurant hospitality stuff. It's a full life. There's a lot of things going on, Stay busy, right?
Keep it going, my friend.
I enjoy all your other pages too and all your other work, Ralph. Thank you.
I appreciate you, and I want to ask, on your behalf as well as mine, I want to ask the listeners if they would not be kind enough to box up some lightly used children's books and take them to whatever Head Start program is in your community. They will be appreciated. Kids need to read. They need to develop a passion. They need to get their noses out of the devices and the games, and they need to become school ready. And reading, as well as math, of course, really goes a long way. So take some books down and donate them. You'll be happy you did, and I won't know about it, but I'll get the good feeling the vibes will be there. Thank you, everybody. Come back next week. It's Giants Baseball, past, present, future. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Adios, everybody.